All right. What's up, my brothers? Welcome to the 150th installment, Unplugged Alpha. Today, we're going to take a little bit of a dive and examination into Tom Brady, Gisele, her new announcement for a pregnancy with her jiu-jitsu instructor, and a bunch of other stuff for a while to respond and sort of react to this. But let's talk about Trump first, because we just have the announcement from the presidential election 2024. Wow. What a result, guys. Holy smokes. What a result. I predicted a landslide in this election on Twitter. I said it needs to be a landslide win for this to be meaningful, for it to work, for it to give them an opportunity to get something done. And it looks like that happened. So that's great news. It's fantastic news to wake up in the morning and hear this. And hopefully, we're going to return to reason and logic and two genders, like the standard narratives that have existed for a long time. So hopefully you'll see a better border, better policies, and it'll set a better standard around the world, because we've seen all of the Western countries today. And I think Elon Musk, said this on his platform, that, this is the last hope. This is the last bastion. This is the last stand. If we don't get it at this point in time in history, things are just going to continue to slide into degeneracy, into a place that nobody really wants to be. And, the Americans that were out there voted, and they voted in strong numbers, and they made their voices heard. And they let the world know today, in no uncertain terms, they're tired of it. They're tired of the nonsense. They're tired of the, you send your kids to school and they're told they can be whatever they want. They can be a bumblebee if they want. They're tired of like silly policies that let in millions of people that are unvetted, without any sort of processing, it seems. We all know about what's been going on for the last few years. So I'm chuffed to hear that this is where we're at. And hopefully we'll see tides change around the world. Hopefully this is a ripple that changes the tides. In Canada, we have an election coming up next year. So hopefully that'll just get rid of Trump, not Trump, Trudeau, the other T out there. But I think his days are numbered. And I believe the sentiment out here in Canada anyway is people are just tired of him as well, just like they were tired of the Biden-Harris regime. I think that this is a great thing. Hopefully we'll see the same thing move in other places in the world, in the other Western English-speaking countries, Australia, New Zealand, England, Scotland, Ireland, like all of these places that have just gone to a place of absurdity, wokeness, of nonsense, of brutal inclusivity, and equality of everything without any kind of equality of effort or work put into it. So I'm chuffed. I'm very chuffed. Great news today. It's been a rough week. He's the stock markets were rallying, this morning when I checked it last, and my crypto portfolio. Let's have a quick look. Woo, daddy. Oh yeah. Sol's up 10%. Bitcoin's up 6%. We see 74,356 right now. Chuffed, guys. I can't wait to see what happens over the next few years. I don't think that anything's going to improve overnight right away, but with some time and effort and some consistency, and if everybody that's been standing behind Trump, RFK, Elon Musk, Gabbard, all of these icons of at least rational logic and reason, can collaborate and come together, it should mean good things for the United States, and of course at some point the rest of the world. I was sitting here thinking, because over the last few years people have asked me a lot, like, Rich, I know you said that you want to get out of Canada eventually, or at least spend less time here, which is a minimum plan. The United States is looking a lot more appealing now. I'll probably pick up a cabin in the Appalachian Mountains at some point in a solid state that's reflective of my beliefs and values. I may not be there that much, but it'll be a fort, a home, place to plant my feet. I do like, the roads there, and I do like a lot of what I've seen. It's very close to Toronto. It's either a drive or a very quick flight, and I'm not going to limit to just that. I still have eyes on Mediterranean, Caribbean, and other options as well. So I can't tell you how happy I am to see and hear where we're at with all this. So let's get on to the Tom Brady, Gisele, Joaquim, I think is how you pronounce that name, her new jiu-jitsu boyfriend, and sort of what happened. I'm not a sports guy. You know, I've said this many times. I really struggle to sit in a chair and watch other guys on a field chase excellence and go and do stuff. And, you know, you see these like scenes with guys with their woman, and their woman's wearing the name of another man on her back that's playing on the field chasing excellence, and it's all rah, rah, rah. I've just never been able to connect to sports in that sense. I get it. I have some friends that are athletes, actually. I just see them as regular people and as friends, and, you know, the same thing in return. But it's interesting because this guy's a phenomenal character. Tom Brady, one of the best quarterbacks ever, apparently. His net worth was listed as of February 2023, which is when they got divorced, which is the important date that I want to reference here. So I'm gonna do my best to break this in. And of course, you know, the truth is somewhere between what I've read in articles and what I've seen and done some research on, and what I'm about to share with you. But there's some stated facts here, so I can make some reasonable estimations and conclusions based on that as an unplugged guy. I always encourage you guys as viewers to, you know, subscribe to the same methods of thinking and seriousness in your own life. A lot of it is based on the book that I wrote several years ago, The Unplugged Alpha. You want the second edition if you haven't read it. You can find that on Amazon. It's a fantastic read. I've been doing a lot of writing lately, especially last week, sort of like, you know, condensing and consolidating thoughts, and you know, really sort of like hash out stuff, because a lot of the struggles that guys come to, and they say things to me like when they DM me, well, Rich, you know, if a guy like Brady couldn't do it, like, what are my chances? Or you know, what do you think of this recent breakdown? And, you know, this new guy that she's with, and apparently Gisele is now pregnant at the age of 44 with her jiu-jitsu instructor's child. So there's some interesting components here and lessons, but I think the biggest thing was, holy cow, this guy is a world-class athlete, tall, handsome, athletic, rich, influential, competent in his, you know, realm of expertise. He's world-class. He's put a dent in the universe. You know, he's influenced a lot of guys. He's been a role model, and he too was unable to keep a marriage together. So let's dive into it. I got some screens to share to sort of, you know, come up with you. We'll get to some answers. I think it's unusual timing, you know, to be honest with you, because I put this event together on Sunday, and on Monday morning, my own 9-year relationship ended. So I'll deal with that some other time, but some of this is sort of like been a little bit surreal for me to sort of read through and echo it with my own thoughts of consolidation. So let's throw this up on the screen. Let's start over here. Invite and present screen share, and we'll start with a net worth one because I think that's the one we want to begin with. Here we go. So we have it's weird now because when you do a search, it gives you an AI overview, which is a new way of presenting this information. But I guess we'll figure out what's going on with these components of search very, very soon at some point. Anyway, so the overview says, as of February 2023, Forbes has estimated Tom Brady's net worth at $530 million. The guy's worth $500 million. Normally, I find estimations of net worth are not that accurate. Like I've looked up, because I know people want to know what's Rich Cooper's net worth, and it's not accurate. It can be plus or minus, I would say 15%, depending on who you're looking at, maybe even 20, 25%. His last year, apparently in the season, paid him something like $73 million. Brady's NFL career spanned 23 seasons, during which he was the highest paid player in the league for a long time, won 7 Super Bowls. So dude's got 7 rings. There's absolutely nobody that I'm aware of. And again, I'm not a huge sports fan. You guys can chop it up in the comments here and you tell me what you think. But there's absolutely nobody in the athletic world that I know of that's won, like, has 7 rings. We got 10 fingers. This guy's got 7 out of 10. I mean, thumbs don't count really. So he's really got 7 of 8 fingers covered. Unbelievable, you know, fantastic career, world class at what he did. He came out of retirement to, you know, come back and do it again and again. What does it say over here? 20 seasons leading the team to Super Bowl, 9 times winning 6. 2020, he joined the Buccaneers on a 2-year contract worth $50 million. After retiring from NFL, Brady signed a 10-year, $375 million contract with Fox Sports, become their lead NFL analyst. Some say Brady's net worth will likely double once he starts his new career on Fox Sports. And you've got endorsements, sponsorships. appearances, speaking gigs. I've seen some big names like this guy speak at events, and they get paid $250,000 just to show up and give a 45-minute speech. And they're usually not even there for the whole event. Like, they're ushered in, they give the talk, and then they're ushered out, and they sort of get on with their day. So it's not a full weekend event where you get to hang out and sit down with them and, have a bite to eat sort of thing at these types of events. It's just in and out, talk, go, bye. It's unreal, the world that they live in. It is phenomenal. A lot of people, will, I think, overestimate or overpraise, influencers, like even guys like me. And it's like, I look at these numbers and they're absolutely like mind blowing. There's people like Tom Brady are in the top 0.0000, probably like 1% of the male population in the world. There's literally a very, very small pool of 8 billion people on the planet, maybe less than probably 50 people on the planet that would be competitive with them if you line them up shoulder to shoulder, as far as net worth and looks. Because we all know that there's really three things that women desire out of guys, and that's success, wealth, influence, power, that sort of stuff, attractiveness. And still, to this day, they look for loyalty. There's, of course, the notion, I've seen people talk about this before. It's like, when it comes to business, they'll say, well, pick 2 out of 3, like, fast, good, cheap, sort of thing like that. Like, pick 2 or pick 1, if you can get it at best. And I think when it comes to men on the sexual marketplace, to women as a success object, as a man on some sort of purpose, he's very rare, if I can put it that way. So I think that was what they were asking of me, to sort of assess, like, how did this happen? Why did it happen? What's your assessment of it, Rich? I've read your book, I've watched your videos, but yeah. People are saying in the comments, he's the greatest of all time. Bill Russell won basketball 10 or 11. He seems like nice guyish. Yeah. Just got here. Believe Tom wasn't that good in bed. No etch. Too nice. Well, I have no idea. I suspect a world-class athlete of his caliber had no problem in the bedroom. Just, it's like, it simply boils down to your cardiovascular health, when it comes to that sort of fun. And I don't think guys like that will get lazy ever, in my opinion. So we've dealt with his net worth. We know he was worth a substantial amount of money, at least $500 million. And that appears to be a number that is only going to go up. And the reason why I started, the reference with that, and I've got a bunch of different sources here of information that I sort of want to go down with you, because I went to multiple places with AI and Grok and some articles and stuff like that. And I think it's, important to note that, well, never mind. Let's just put this up on the screen and keep going through it so I can add my commentary. So we've got a Grok response. Let's see if we can make this a little bit bigger so you guys can sort of play along, but I'll read it out because I know a lot of guys just sort of listen. They don't bother watching the screen. So Tom Brady, Gisele divorce finalized in October 2022. So that's significant because the question's always asked is, did she cheat on him? Did he cheat on her? We don't know, blah, blah, blah. We'll figure that out in a second, or we'll come to a strong probability, right? There's no assurances when it comes to stuff like this. They usually don't fling mud or publicize the nasty details as a public figure. But it says over here they finalized it in 2022. It's been attributed to several factors based on public statements and media reports. So this is a summarization. I've got a few others that I want to go through. Diverging life paths, both Brady and Bundchen. I don't even know how to pronounce her last name. She's Brazilian. She was a Brazilian supermodel. I'm sure you guys know who she is. She's very attractive, tall. She's your typical, supermodel looking woman. Not the most curvy in, the sense, but, the tall, attractive sort of stereotype that they'll put up on a pedestal on, magazines and fashion shows and stuff like that. They get paid well, but nothing close to what Tom Brady did. Like he was off the chart. Guys have said to me, is it possible to get a woman that is a SMV higher than me? Right. And generally speaking, I'm going to say no. For her to have genuine burning desire over a long period of time, like into perpetuity sort of thing, you're almost always, guys, going to get a gal of an SMV that's going to be lower than you. By how much? I don't know. It could be equal. It could be several points lower. But because women are hypergamous, they date and mate up. They'll only commit to men Generally speaking, they prefer, if I can put it that way, a very strong preference to commit to men that are of a higher caliber than them. There's no woman that is able to look up to a guy that's at the same level of them or lower, right? And women want to look up to a guy. They want to be with a giant. It's been said many, many times. I've covered that. Anyway, I'm not going to call her Bundchen because I'm probably pronouncing it wrong. We'll just call her Gisele. But Tom and Gisele publicly mentioned they grew apart over time. It's always something cookie cuttered like that. When you start digging, right? It's always something cookie cutter, like they just grew apart. Oh, we just grew apart. And you'll see some of the feedback because there's been some magazines that have interviewed her, and it's like years after the divorce. Now, she's opened up, is the way that they put it, and disclosed where she is in her life and why it happened. And we'll get into that in a second. But again, this is a summary. They met when they were in their 20s. I think he was 29, she was 26. With shared dreams of family, but as years passed, their personal aspirations diverged. Gisele, in particular, expressed a desire to focus on her own project life goals after years of supporting Brady's football career. That's really your job as a trophy wife to a career athlete, a world-class athlete. We're not talking college football. We're not talking CFL or any other minor leagues. We're talking world-class. When you get to this level and you play at this level, this is like Elon Musk of entrepreneurs. Tom Brady is like the Elon Musk of entrepreneurs. I can't touch Elon Musk. I'm not building rockets. I don't have Twitter X. I don't have a car company. I'm good. I'm not that good. It's an impressive accomplishment that few men are able to get to. Anyway, Gisele in particular expressed desire to focus on her own projects after years of supporting his football career. And they have a source over there described in interviews. Career and family time was the second point that was brought up. A significant point of contention was Brady's commitment to his career, especially his decision to unretire. Gisele had expressed concerns about his continued involvement in football due to sports' violent nature and her desire for him to be more present in their family. Generally speaking, as my own observation, expressed concerns of his continued due to sports' violent nature. So sports violent. I'm not really sure what the notion of violent nature means. Was she afraid that he was going to get hurt? I don't know. I mean, she met the guy that she's with now, Joaquim, the kid's Brazilian jiu-jitsu instructor. They had 2 children together, and she's now with that guy. And I mean, MMA is violence. Violence is golden, as they say. But generally speaking, my understanding is one of the safer positions, aside from kicker, because kickers usually don't get hit, is quarterback, because a quarterback is pretty much like the king on the chessboard. Like all the pieces sort of move around him and they're there to protect him. He doesn't move that much, but he's probably one of the most important pieces because the ball goes to him and he tries to get it downrange. Anyway, apparently the violent nature of sports was an issue for her, which is strange because why isn't it an issue before? It seems like a weird thing to say. And her desire for him to be more present for their family. This decision reportedly led to an epic fight between them, which might have been the catalyst to the decision to divorce. I think you're going to see that there's more to it. Public perception and personal fulfillment. Gisele's public statements, like her interview with Vanity Fair, pointed to the divorce as the death of her dream. I'll get to that article in a little bit. I've pulled up the commentary from that, indicating a significant emotional impact from the split. However, she also emphasized looking forward to living her truth and not feeling apologetic about her choices. Whenever I hear my truth, or living her truth, or she was true to her own vision and purpose, like those words, her truth usually means, generally speaking, not always, but that she's believed her lies. She's told herself a story that she wants to believe, that she wants people that follow them to also believe, which make her feel good about it, right? Like everybody tells themselves some version of a story as to why things happen, or why the knot was untied, or why the breakup happened, sort of thing. And it's like, well, I had to be true to my truth, or I had to be, living my truth, sort of thing. And it's like, that usually just means that they've believed their lies and not feeling apologetic about her choices. And it's got a link to a source there. The next point is amicable split, which is generally speaking what anybody in the public eye attempts to do. You don't want to fling mud at the other person. You've got kids together. You want the dust to settle reasonably and quickly with as little damage as possible. But as we all know, in the United States, it's a Western country. The standards apply of she's entitled to half his stuff, a strong amount of child support monthly. She's going to have custody of the kids. That's just the way that things go. So you try to paint this picture of it was an amicable split up. We did it in a way that was in the best interest of the children and image and all that sort of stuff, because you don't want to tarnish your image. You don't want to flick boogers at the other person, personally. That's not something that I would want to do either. And I certainly wouldn't want to have it happen to me. But, they've expressed gratitude for their time together and commitment to co-parent their children, suggesting that while their marriage ending, their relationship as parents and former partners remains cooperative. It's the standard sound bites. You're going to hear this everywhere. And the last point that came up here on this AI search was personal growth and authenticity as a reason for the breakup. And Gisele's reflection in media interviews also touched on the idea of personal growth, right? Like, I have to grow, sort of thing. Again, it's a standard soundbite. It's like cookie cutter stuff. It was amicable. We grew apart. Personal growth was required. It's not something that we wanted. It just happened, blah, blah, blah. We'll get to some more details in a bit. But one might need to make a choice to live authentically, even if it means parting ways with somebody that they love, blah, blah, blah. So again, a lot of standard cookie cutter stuff, right? You guys are chopping up in the comments. Love to see it. Yes, hypergamy is real. It is certainly nothing that you can argue. And there's also the notion of Briffault's law. Women want benefit out of men. So I'll touch on that for a second. Thank you for bringing that up. Marriage causes divorce. That's an interesting name. The number one cause of divorce, marriage. So Briffault's law is a interesting observation. I'm going to try to reflect on this, for a moment, because I haven't talked about this that often recently. It's a video that I made a long time ago on the Entrepreneurs of Cars channel. I remember I was in the R8 when I made that video, so it was several cars ago, probably 2017 or 18. And I came across this notion of Briffault's law, and I think he was a French scientist who spent a good deal of time studying animal behavior, I think more so primates. And the conclusions that he drew, which seem to be universally accepted mostly, there's always somebody that'll challenge it, was that in the animal kingdom, which also reflects in human nature as well, the female species is basically only there so long as they can derive perceived benefit from the male. The moment that the benefit dries up, or the perceived benefit no longer exists, is usually the end of that connection, that relationship, that, in this case, marriage, for example. So that's certainly a strong contributor to a breakup, is the woman in the equation does not see a perceived benefit to being there anymore and says to herself, I'm out. And a lot of people would argue, like, why would she leave a world-class athlete worth hundreds of millions, like almost a billionaire? Why would she leave a world-class athlete? She's just a pretty face, to go and basically bang her kid's jiu-jitsu instructor, which is essentially, you can say that might be a little harsh, that might be a little terse, Rich, you don't have all the details. Well, that's essentially what happened, right? And it's a reasonable question. Why would a world-class man be left by a woman to go with a jiu-jitsu instructor? But I think he owned the dojo, if I'm not mistaken. So that's the extent of his success. Same thing with Mackenzie Bezos. She left Jeff to go and be with a school teacher at the time. So it's an interesting question, because we often say, and I do certainly anyway, that, for you to keep a woman around, she needs to see you as her best option for quite a long time, like into perpetuity. She needs to wake up in the morning and say, this guy is my best option. But the problem that is introduced into that equation, which we don't often contemplate, maybe I haven't talked about this enough, is that women have the rights as a function of family law to your wealth. And she can have access to all of that money without your dumb ass, right? So if her friends, her family get in her ear and say, which usually here is some version of, that's abuse. He said like one of the ones that I've heard is financial abuse. Like, how do I get out of this financially abusive marriage? And it's usually something like, he made $250,000 a year, has a strong income, has me on a budget, but I can't spend as I see fit, right? Usually the guy gives her reasonable, cash flow to buy food, take care of the kids, maintain the household. But usually at some point, what ends up happening is something gets in their ear. Women always reserve the right to change their mind at any given time later on down the road, as I've said many, many times. And she comes to the realization that I'm not getting what I want from him. He's not listening to me. So I have access to half his shit if I just leave him, and the kids, because she'll have custody, which she seems to have right now for the most part. So I'll just leave and take all of that with me, and I'll find something new that'll make me happy. And I've said this again many times as well too. The grass is not greener on the other side of the fence. It's always greener where you water and fertilize it. And we don't know all the exact details of that marriage and what happened, but I didn't see any evidence of physical abuse, violence. There's no police reports, that I came across that, where the cops were forced to come to their house over and over again over a disagreement or anything like that. I didn't see any of that. I saw none of that. It almost seemed to boil down to she didn't get her way. She got bored, and this was her way of exacting an outage on it. I didn't see any evidence of Brady cheating on her, although many people have said that she cheated on him with the jiu-jitsu instructor, but I'll get to that in a little bit. But yeah, so there's that. Let's close this one up, move to the next one. So let's go to the timeline. And this is an article that reads, a timeline of Brady and Gisele's relationship and split. This was published this summer in 2024. I'm not going to read all of this. Let's go down to circa 2024. Tom opens up about the impact of his career, impact his career had on his marriage during the interview with Howard Stern, saying that Gisele has felt he wasn't doing his part for the family. And again, I feel like it's a very soft, feminine way of speaking. Felt like I would play football all season and she would take care of the house. She wasn't satisfied with our marriage, so I needed to make a change in that. Her point was, well, yeah, of course, this works for you. It all works for you, but it doesn't work for me. I don't know what to say about that, aside from boohoo, cry me a river. You knew who Tom Brady was when you met him when he was 29, and you were a pretty face supermodel on a runway somewhere. You knew who he was exactly, right? World-class athlete. It's not like you didn't know his name when you met him. You didn't know what he did for a living. You didn't know what his commitment to his craft was. And I think they were married for 12 years. It was definitely over a decade. But this commitment to who he is and what he's about shouldn't change. A friend of mine who is also an athlete, retired from his sport, did very well, was in the Hall of Fame. He's a good friend of mine. He spoke at my event earlier this year in January 2024 in Toronto, my 1% Forum. By the way, my next in real life event will be October, so fall next year. We had a number of conversations. We've spent a lot of time together talking about stuff. And one of the things that he had told me was, after he retired from sport, again, world-class athlete, at some point, you hit the wall as an athlete and you really don't have the capability to perform or compete at the level that you did when you were younger, when you're healthier and stronger and your joints are all, you have less energy, injuries and all that sort of stuff. And, he said to me one time, I was, it was like the middle of the day and I put my head down on the couch, take a nap to lie down. And my wife came into the room and she said to me, "What are you doing?" With disdain, with some distaste, with almost a level of contempt, it sounded like, was my interpretation of the way that it was presented. And he said, "What do you mean, what am I doing?" "I'm taking a nap." And she said, "No, like, why aren't you doing something?" Right? And he goes, "Look around, right? You live in this house, look at the beautiful, life that I've created, the children, all that sort of thing. If I want to put my head down and take a nap in the middle of the day in my retirement, I'm going to do that." And I think women don't understand their capacity to beta-tize a male, and men don't appreciate how women's view changes with them over time of who you are. I've always said, and I maintain this, guys, you have a responsibility, a strong obligation to chase excellence, put a dent in the universe, and continue to do that basically in a perpetuity. Last thing a woman wants is to look at a guy and be like, he's not the guy that I married. He's not that winner that I committed to. Why is he taking a nap in the middle of the day, like as an example? So that rings true. And I find that interesting based on how he's described it with this interview excerpt, like the soundbite with the Stern conversation. But I saw the same sort of thing when I was talking to my friend about his retirement. I'm not going to give away names. I mean, he mentioned it publicly at the event. That's it. I mean, if you want to see the interview with him, it's actually on my email list. I keep forgetting to put my email list on the bottom. But you can get on over here. It gives you the red flag chapter out of my book, The Unplugged Alpha. It's a free chapter, 21 red flags that you need to understand. You know, when you're going to invite a woman in your life on a long-term basis, a committed basis anyway. And there's actually the sit-down talk that I did with him there. So you can go check that out if you're not on the email list. So Tom opens up, doesn't work for me. Okay. Obviously, things were fine for several years after this. So consider that the quote, a little background as we head to. So this was before 2022. So before 2022, she was already complaining to him. You're not doing your part in the family. Was it over there? Yeah. Doing his part for the family. In a situation where you're a world-class athlete and you're married a pretty face, your job is to bring home the bacon. She cooks it up. There's not going to be a whole lot of time for him. Like, again, I don't play sports at that level. I've never even come close. Okay. Like I've done bodybuilding, I've done boxing, I've done a lot of independent sports, motorsports, racing, stuff like that, but nothing at a world-class level. I've never been that good. I'm not that athletic. I'm fit. I like movement, obviously, but I'm not that level of an athlete, not even close. So, it's interesting to see that this new demand, given their training schedule, practices, travel, was a complaint when she knew what she was getting into. She knew who he was. Women just find ways to manufacture indignation. It's been said, drama. In the absence of drama or indignation, women will actively manufacture it. It happens to everybody, including Tom Brady. World-class athlete, rings, winning championships. Women want to be with him. Men want to be him. Fill stadiums with tens of thousands of people wearing jerseys with his name printed on the back. It doesn't get any better than that. I don't think that, there's not stadiums filled with like, even with Trump as a president, there's not stadiums with people wearing jerseys with Trump's name on the back, maybe MAGA hats or whatever, but nothing to that level. So this is an interesting case from that perspective. Anyway, it goes on to 2022 in August is the next epoch in the timeline. And it says Tom is excused from practicing with the Buccaneers. The head coach says he's dealing with some personal things. So August 11th, 2022, the announcement's made that he's dealing with some personal things. Tom has been excused today. The head coach explains he'll be back somewhere around after Tennessee. He's going to deal with some personal things. And this looks like a caption of a tweet on the date. Bucs head coach Todd Bowles told reporters that Tom Brady will be away from the team to deal with personal matters until after Tampa's August 20th pressing game versus the Titans. One of the worst things that can happen to a guy is instability in his personal life, in his relationship, in his home. A man's personal life, his home should be a place of peace and refuge. He wants to be respected. He wants to be valued, especially at this level. I mean, like even your average guy that might be making decent money, holding down a good career, looking after the family, keeping a roof over their head, doing his absolute best to protect them, sort of thing, would feel let down by a woman, I think, making his life difficult. There's no guy that is out there chasing excellence, putting out fires all day, doing remarkable things, that wants to come home to chaos. He wants to come home to peace. He wants to come home to serenity. He wants to come home to love. He wants to come home to a place of refuge and comfort, not chaos. It's frustrating. I've certainly experienced it. I know a lot of you guys watching have certainly experienced it. But to August 27th, 2022, which is the next epoch in this timeline, it says, after the 11-day absence from practice, Tom returns and tells reporters everyone has different situations they're dealing with, and we all have really unique challenges to our lives. I'm 45 years old. Man, there's a lot of shit going on. You just have to try to figure out life the best you can. It's a continuous process. So that was a span of a few weeks. Next announcement. Anyway, so here's the article itself, or sorry, him talking about it. Let's see if this will play. Let me put on my speakers over here so I can hear this, because I didn't play this yet. That's tough to watch. You can tell the guy's broken there. You can tell that he's done the best that he can and that he's trying to keep it together while being somewhat authentic to his audience. But at the same time, tough to watch, right? September 1st, 2022. Reports that Tom and Gisele are in the middle of an epic fight and claims she left the family compound in Tampa for a trip to Costa Rica. Tom and Gisele are in a fight right now, one source says, while another adds there's been trouble in the marriage over his decision to unretire. If you're unfamiliar, he retired. They brought him back for another season. The conflict between them seemed to stem from him going back to play one more season, which I find unusual because if you've been married to the guy for 10 years, or sorry, 12 years, I think it was, and he decides to go back for another season, big whoop-de-doo. Like, a season isn't 12 months long. There's always time off in the season. But yes, it's another commitment. Yes, it's more work, but it's also an opportunity, get another ring, achieve something greater, make even more money, for the family and for the wealth, and, for the future of it all. And you see photographs like this and you're like, people kind of envy that. And they're like, like, look at the couple. They're so perfect. Her head on his shoulder. She must absolutely adore him and love him and do everything for him, sort of thing. And they envy that. And they see photographs like this and they think, well, I want that. I want what Tom's got, right? Like, I want that look of genuine burning desire. I get it. I get it, man. I've got the t-shirt, been there, done it, sort of thing. And he has this, it's not smug, but he has this look on his face of almost pushing through something and trying to put a slight smile on his face. You can see it, right? Fight right now, one source says, well, another adds there's been trouble in marriage over his decision. He had agreed he would retire and focus on the family, and then he changed his mind. Why did he change his mind? I don't think it really matters. What I think at this stage in my life anyway is if a man makes the decision, if he's the man, if he's leading the relationship and she's following, and he sets the guidelines and the boundaries and rules, and he's a man of some substance and character, she should support that. I'm steadfast in that. I'm absolutely 100% steadfast in that. She should be like ride or die. Like, that's what ride or die is. And sure, maybe she was ride or die for several years, but this is the epoch. This is the pivot in his career, in his life, in the late summer, fall of 2022, where that started to change. This photograph here, actually, as I hover the mouse over it, it's not showing up on your screen, but as I hover the mouse over it, you can tag photographs on sites, and it says UCLA honors Barbara Streisand and Gisele at the 2019 Hollywood for Science Gala. So even in 2019, in this photograph, again, head on shoulder, looking like admiration, genuine burning desire. Like, you would think that's a 10 out of 10 with genuine burning desire, but you can tell by the look on his face that something's going on. Fast forward 7 days to September 7th. People reports that Tom and Gisele are experiencing a lot of tension over his decision to unretire, and they're in a rough patch. Here's the quote. There's a lot of tension. She was so happy when he announced his retirement, and then she wasn't thrilled at all when he went back on that, a source says. They're hitting a rough patch, but I know they're trying at least, and he's trying to figure it out and make it work. He wants to get through this and for all the things to be better. September 11th, a few days later after that announcement, Gisele tweets her support for Tom. Let's go, Tom Brady. Let's go, Bucks. Okay. Guys, what you see out there publicly is often it's a layer of paint over some shit. Water damage, cracks in the wall. You can put lipstick and makeup on a pig, but it's still a pig, at the end of the day. And this is what was going on in his life at the time, right? But, she made a concerted public effort to support him still. But doesn't attend his first game of the season. So his first game, she wasn't there. If you don't know, for the most part, athletes' wives, from the documentaries that I've watched quite a few, mostly in football, like soccer, sorry. Because, I'm interested in guys like Beckham and, a few of the other like world-class athletes in that space. That's maybe the only sport that I'll ever watch, especially when it gets to Euro or World Cup sort of level. And even that is very little. And mostly just to support England or another European country that I might like. But she doesn't attend his game. And in the vast majority of cases, the wives are almost always there, at least for the opener anyway. An insider tells the magazine, everyone here knows that there's tension, but we don't know how serious it is. So we're just not talking to him about Gisele. It's not a topic anyone wants to bring up to him. I mean, you got to focus on what it is you're doing. The next day, on the 12th, source tells going back to Tampa after the retirement to put a strain on the personal side of his life. Gisele is frustrated and sick of his career coming before their family, who always supported him. Like, she's the victim. I always supported him. You know, this is not fair on me. You know, wins the Super Bowl, like this photograph here. She's kissing him, pulling him in tight. Obviously an indication of strong interest, genuine burning desire. And like with anything, interest wanes over time. Familiarity will breed contempt. Proximity breeds contempt. It's just a reality of long-term relationships. And, you know, this is where you get the guys going again. You know, if Brady couldn't do it, what's my chance? How am I supposed to do it? September 13th. What is this? One day later. Gisele gives an interview saying, I've done my part, which is to be there for him. I moved to Boston and I focus on creating a cocoon and a loving environment for my children to grow up in and to be there supporting him in his dreams. Seeing my children succeed and become beautiful little humans that they are, seeing him succeed and being fulfilled in his career, it makes me happy, she says. At this point in my life, I feel like, you guys have heard me say this about I feel like. At this point in my life, I feel like I've done a good job at that. I have a huge list of things that I have to do and I want to do at 42. I feel more connected with my purpose. This is a strong leading indicator, a public indicator of contempt, warmth, and like there's a very concerted effort in making sure that the message looks good, but there's an underlying tone of contempt. And I've said it again, I'll say it today, contempt is a strong indicator to it is a clock that ticks down to the end of relationship. I've seen it in many guys. I've seen it in my own life as well. Contempt is the clock that ticks down to the end of that relationship. So she's saying that she's now talking about her purpose and her kids, and I've done my job. Essentially, you know, the next step after that is I'm done, right? I can't do it anymore. Your standards are too high, right? She also says, I feel very fulfilled in the way that as a mother and as a wife, and now it's going to be my turn. It's my turn now, right? December 16th, a few days later, source tells that Tom and Gisele have been living apart for over a month, while another source says Gisele has been telling Tom for a while that he needs to spend more time with the family, and after he retired, she thought she was getting what she asked for. The training schedule, the play schedule, all of these things for a world-class athlete at this level is intense. It's very intense. There's very high and strong expectations. There's a very strong brotherhood amongst the men on that team. It's strong. So I understand that's going to take time away from family. But again, she knew what she was getting into when she married him. Gisele has been telling Tom for a while he needs to spend more time in the family after he retired. She thought she was getting what she asked for. Once Tom decided to go back to the NFL, again for the last season, she was devastated. She's very hurt. She's hurt over a guy chasing excellence, making more money, looking for one more dent in the universe. Not a small one, but a big one. She's hurt over him being on his purpose. Isn't that interesting? Right? Another source, see, not every woman will destroy a man's life in a marriage, will take half of his stuff, will take custody of the kids. Not every woman will, but every woman, regardless of who you are as a man, has the capacity to do so. Do you understand this? Right? Anyway, she's devastated. She's hurt. Another source explains Gisele is upset with Tom and wants some space right now. I need space. I've talked about this before. Usually what the space looks like is another guy between her legs. That's usually where the space gets to. Whenever a chick says, I need space, almost universally, not always, but almost universally, that's what it's getting at. That's where it's going to. And of course, you have to realize, guys, at this point in time, she's understanding that she has rights to half his wealth. She has rights to half the assets. She has rights to a very significant child support paycheck monthly. It's a very strong incentive for women to untie the knot. And I've said this for many years, and I do have a chapter in my book that talks about why smart men don't marry. Again, if you haven't read the book, get it. It's not expensive. It's a book. It's on Amazon. Get it. Women are strongly incentivized when they have married a world-class man that has wealth to take a good chunk of that rather than stay with them. If they're not happy, they're going to hear things. Well, why aren't you happy, girl? You know, if he's not going to make you happy, then find somebody else that will make you happy. You know, like, you can move on. And they all know they move on with half his shit, and the kids too. So what's the incentive to stay married to a man in a perpetuity? Where's the incentive to support his purpose and his mission, to be a complement to his life, to let him lead and be the ride or die that she's supposed to be, and support that purpose? It exists, but as time goes on, and as familiarity is very common, proximity is very common, she starts spending times at her kids' jiu-jitsu dojo, taking them to and from, sitting there oogling the guy that's a combat, not a combat veteran, but a combat sports sort of veteran that's world-class at his designated sort of strengths in life. There's just not a lot keeping that together. There's not a lot of glue when things happen that way. Another source, Gisele is upset, wants some space. She's getting pushed to her limit. Her limit. Every single chick on the planet would die to be with a guy like Tom Brady, and she's complaining that she's getting pushed to her limit because he took on one more season. One more season. Less than 10% of the time they've been together. Actually, it's even less than 10% because they weren't married for a period of time as well. So it's more closer to less than 5% of the time they've been together. She has to make a sacrifice for another 5%. She's always supported Tom and been there for him, but she's over it. She doesn't think Tom has been himself lately. A few days later, Tom and Gisele are both hunkering down in Miami ahead of a hurricane, Hurricane Ian, but notes they're staying in separate homes at this time. On the 4th of October, multiple outlets report Tom and Gisele have hired divorce lawyers at this point. A source tells Page Six, I've never actually thought this argument would be the end of them, but it looks like it is. I don't think there will be any coming back from this now. They both have lawyers. They're looking at what a split will entail, who gets what, and what the finances will be. And it's not like who gets what and what is entailed. It's very simple. You put all the assets in a pile, right? Here in Canada, I think it's a Form 13-1 is what it's called. You put all the assets on a pile, you disclose it, assets and liabilities. You take a big sword, cut it right down the middle. You go, Gisele, this is yours. Tom, this is yours. And by the way, since Gisele is the mom and she's been doing all the childcare, taking the kids to the extracurriculars, looking after them, blah, 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 you'll have custody, which also entitles her to a fat monthly payment. Usually with guys like this that make the kind of money that he does, it's not uncommon for child support to be $100,000, $200,000 a month. It's substantial, and it's not what the children need. It's what the government tables say that he has to pay to her. I don't know what state governs the divorce or the breakup, like where they live, like where that happened. It didn't say, but that's the generality of how it unfolds. So here's a photograph of them. This is a 2019 photograph at the Hollywood for Science Gala arrivals. Looking all good. And happy, beautiful, and, of course, the envy of everybody that sees stuff like this. Men look at this and go, oh, I want what Tom has. I want a wife like this. Women look at this and they go, yeah, I want Tom. Meanwhile, the source tells rumblings of marital issues between Tom and Gisele began towards the end of the summer. More recently, things have gotten worse and more serious. They haven't been in a good place. Gisele feels like Tom has chosen his career over his family, and she's tired of it. She is also has her own dreams and aspirations and doesn't want to keep putting her goals on hold. What goals? What goals does he have to prioritize for her? He's the athlete. He's the guy that brings home the bacon. He's the man. He's the fucking man here. What is so important that she can't do while he's playing this last season, right? Like, women like this, they have nannies. They don't do all the childcare. They just don't. Like, it's always been that way in situations like this. She would have plenty of time to pursue her nonprofit, her animal rescue, whatever it happens to be for her, she would certainly have the time for that, even as he pursues this last season. They're weighing their options for the future of his family and thinking about what steps might look like. They've already got the lawyer. That's it. It's done. By the time she's fed up, again, contempt is the clock that ticks down to the end of the relationship. Realize that if you're in a relationship, again, I saw this myself personally too. If you're in a relationship and she's expressing contempt, she's less warm, you're not getting the "my king" texts, anymore. The very basic or more infrequent. That is contempt. That is a degree. It might be light, it might be strong, but as the contempt increases, it's done. It's not fixable generally at that point. October 6th, Tom Brady is hurting at this point. According to source, she is the one steering the divorce. So, like we've seen over and over again, women 80% of the time are the ones deciding to untie the knot. Men don't generally decide to untie the knot unless it's really bad. Like unless she's a awful wife and mother, it's very, very rare that men will say, "I'm out. I'm checking out. I'm done. I can't do this anymore." It's more often than not the women, because family law is so strongly in their favor and they're hypergamous and they marry up to a world-class guy, that she's going to initiate the process, because over 12 years, she's realized, I've put my time in, and now I know family law is going to take care of me. So she steers the divorce. She's playing offense and he's playing defense. He wants to protect himself, protect his interests, but he's only starting to go the legal route in his defense from her. So again, he didn't want it. He didn't want any of this. He doesn't want this to be ugly. He doesn't want to fight. If the divorce is happening, and it seems like it is, he wants it to go as smoothly as possible, which is, of course, a reasonable position to take, especially as a public figure and especially when you have children. Smart move on both their part. Meanwhile, an insider says Tom isn't taking things well. They're not going to say he's a blubbering pile of tears. Insiders will not do that, friends especially. But making the statement, Tom isn't taking things well. He wants to reconcile and is still holding out hope. Hope is the worst thing when you have a breakup. Like the first thing you have to do when you see it's done, you surrender to it, you accept it, you let go of hope, because you cannot move forward if you continue to hold on to hope. So a month into it, I think it's reasonable still to want to hold on to hope. But the first thing that you have to let go of as a guy when she decides to bounce on you is hope. But at this point, he's still, hopeful, if I can put it that way. Holding out hope that they will work things out. He's extremely hurt, misses Gisele being by his side, feels abandoned in a way. That's got to be a tough feeling, like putting effort into a relationship, into a woman, into a family, and then feeling abandonment. It's tough. Like I know it firsthand too. He loves his family, but also wants to continue his career. He feels like he's in a tough spot. Hate to hear it. We're updating this with more news, blah, blah, blah. Hope they can make it work out. This photograph, as the cursor highlights it, 2019 Met Gala camp, notes on Fashion Inside event. This guy was an accessory to her. You look at that photograph and, the way she's leaning into him, looking at the camera, has her hand on his chest, her ring finger, her wedding ring, displayed. And he has a big smile on his face back in 2019 at the time of this photograph, is a strong indication to me anyway, like as I look at it, that they're into each other at this time. But to some regard, I can't help but to think to myself, this guy also looks like an accessory in this photograph. Like this photograph would not be as good as it is without Tom Brady in it. Tall, handsome, lean, athletic, a winner, multiple rings, world-class. Men want to be him. Women want to be with him. This photograph would not have the same value without Tom Brady in it. She's pretty. She was a model. But as we know, women's beauty fades over time as they get older. So there's that. October 7th, and this article is almost done. Source is back for more, this time saying Tom and Gisele's marriage drama has kind of been going on for a while. The problems are 10 years old. Wow, 10 years old. The guy's been married to her for 12 years. So if this source is stating that this has been going on for 10 years, it's surprising to me that he was able to accomplish the things that he did with chaos in his inner world, with a lack of peace in his own home, that this happened in his life for 10 years. So not wearing a hat, but I tip my hat to the man for being able to do as much as he did, as well as he did for so long, for so many years, without the full support that she's purportedly holding out for. Like, she says here in many of the comments, I fully support him. I've been by his side. I've been his rock. Like, not in all those words, obviously, but apparently this bullshit's been going on for 10 years in their marriage. I'll get to the super chats in a bit, guys. I see one there, but I'll finish reading this, but I'll definitely get to it for you. Meanwhile, apparently, sorry, this has been going on forever. This is nothing new to either of them. So for 10 years again. Meanwhile, apparently Gisele is doing fine. As it always goes, women have a very easy time untying the knot. They have a very comfortable, women just take breakups differently from guys. I can't emphasize this enough. I've seen this in so many cases that I've read, many of the men that I've consulted with, anecdotal evidence, my own experiences and stuff. Women move on very, very quickly. That's just how they're built. I've talked about war brides before very quickly. Women throughout history were forced to move on very quickly at the end of a relationship. You go back thousands of years, hunter-gatherer days, men would go out, hunt and gather, kill the saber-toothed tiger, the mastodons, bring home, the bacon. And sometimes they wouldn't make it back. A warring tribe may have killed them. The animal they were hunting may have killed them. And there was probably a reasonable, strong chance that when he left the village to go out and do something, war, hunt, whatever it was, he may not come back. And that would force women to become war brides, to accept it very quickly. He's not coming back because he's dead. So think about this. For thousands of years, he's not coming back. He's dead. A warring tribe killed him. Animal killed him. Our village was attacked and men were killed off, sort of thing. And women are taken in as war brides in scenarios like that. And they're forced as a function of survival, because if they didn't do it, women and the children would just not survive. They had to accommodate the next thing. In some sense or regard, family law is almost like that new man, because family law gives them the financial resources. Money is powerful. Vast quantities of money in this case is very safe, for women. She's also got a guy as well lined up as well. Gisele's doing fine. She's getting her stuff in order. They are both over fighting for their marriage and happening now, so they can do their own thing and move on. The 12th, Gisele drops a not so subtle emoji in the comments of this post about inconsistent relationships. What does it say over here? Jason, this dork. You can't be in a committed relationship with someone who is inconsistent with you. Read that again. And she does a little emoji with the, like the peace hands, like namaste sort of thing. Like, yes. Interesting, eh? One of the things that ends up happening in a breakup or a divorce, guys, is women go looking for, it's a whole cognitive bias thing. They go looking for evidence, for statements, for sound bites that support their worldview. And at that time, given the little namaste peace sign to, you can't be in a committed relationship with someone who's inconsistent with you, read that again. Probably, again, I am speaking my truth. Like we saw something along the lines earlier of speaking my truth. And again, what I've said is that just usually means that they've believed the lies that they've told themselves. Moving on. Source tells us weekly that Tom and Gisele's friends are less than impressed with Tom's decision to unretire. Of course, they're going to criticize and judge him. Gisele and Tom's friends are upset at Tom for going back on his word and coming out of retirement. The source says they hate the way Tom is refusing to bend for Gisele. I mean, the man is committed. You have to respect that the man is committed to his craft. He was committed to an opportunity for one more go at it, for one last championship, ring, season, however it is that you want to do it. He obviously loves what he does. He's passionate about it. But now what usually happens in the divorce or the breakup, because they tell men and women two different things. They tell men, do what's right. They tell women, do what's right for you, girl. So what we're getting here is some echoing of that, where they're basically saying they're disappointed in Tom. You do what's right for you, girl, right? Are you unplugging and seeing the code in the matrix as I break this down for you? I hope this is useful and making sense. Holy smokes, we're almost an hour into this. They hate the way Tom is refusing to bend, but said friends that these two could get back together. Not at this point. She's already porking the jiu-jitsu instructor. This was really the big first issue they've had in their marriage. Friends are hoping that they aren't past the point of no return. Tom has been throwing himself into work and focusing all his love on the kids. Giselle's been focusing their kids and also working to build up her businesses and take some time for herself. What businesses did she like? SpaceX, Tesla, like what businesses of some significance that are bigger than a world-class NFL career. But again, I'm speaking my truth. It usually means that they're believing their lies. October 28th. According to source, Tom and Gisele have officially reached a settlement, ending their marriage. That was very quick, within 2 months. What's more, the divorce documents are said to be formally filed in Florida. So that looks like Florida was the governing law, the state that took care of that. The outlet adds that their sources say lawyers for the pair have been working with a mediator to hammer out both property settlement and custody. They are finally come to terms. That's rapid. March of the following year, after about 5 months since Gisele and Tom officially finalized their divorce, the model finally breaks her silence. Both on where she stands today and with what actually led to the split. It's like the death and a rebirth. She confesses in a new interview. Excuse me. You can get these mugs, by the way, in the store below. You know, if you like stuff like this, help support the channel. It's like a death and a rebirth. She confesses in a new interview, explaining that she has been mourning the death of my dream. Well, if it was your dream, why did you kill it, sweetheart? Why did you kill it? If it was your dream, if it was truly your dream, why did you kill it? Again, speaking my truth usually means that they've believed their lies. It's tough because you imagine your life was going to be a certain way and you did everything you could, while she was complaining for 10 years in the marriage. She continues, I believe in fairy tales when I was a kid. We all do. I think it's beautiful to believe that. I mean, I'm so grateful I did. Of course you are. You married and had the children of a world-class athlete. This is something every woman on the planet would absolutely die to have. Every single woman, there's 8 billion people on the planet, half of them are women. 4 billion women would die to have been in Gisele's shoes, to have been with a guy like Tom Brady. I'm so grateful I did it. The model also addresses all the rumors about being the supposed reason of why she and Tom ultimately divorced, calling the allegations that it had to do with him returning to football very hurtful. The craziest thing I've ever heard. In reality, the athlete's career was apparently one piece of a much larger puzzle. When I was 26 years old, he was 29. We met, we wanted a family, we wanted things together. As time goes by, we realized that we just wanted different things. He didn't. He wanted his wife, he wanted his children, his family, and he wanted his career. She didn't want that anymore. She wanted to untie the knot. But as time goes by, we realize that we just wanted different things. Again, this is the story that women will tell themselves. I'm speaking my truth. I believe my lies. Now we have a choice to make. That doesn't mean you don't love the person. That's familiar. That doesn't mean you don't love the person, right? Well, if you loved him, if it was true love, if you were the ride or die girl, again, why are you leaving, right? It just means that in order for you to be authentic and truly live the life that you want to live, you have to have somebody who can meet you in the middle, right? Somebody who can meet you in the middle. Enter Joaquim, the jiu-jitsu instructor. It's a dance. It's a balance. Gisele admits we're not playing against each other. We are a team. If you're a team, again, why did you divorce him? And that's beautiful. I look back and I have no regrets. I loved every bit of it. Again, you tell these stories, right? August 9th, 2023. Amid speculation that Gisele isn't thrilled by the news that Tom Brady is dating Arena Shank. So he just said, fuck it, I'm moving on, which you have to. Like I said earlier, the first thing you have to do in a breakup is give up hope. You have to surrender, accept it. I don't like your decision. I think you're being childish. I think it's ridiculous, but I will accept it. And then the next step after that is you have to kill hope. Any hope that she's coming back, that it's going to rekindle, that you're going to return to a pleasant, blissful sort of state that you're in before. And that's tough for guys. It's a lot easier for women. She's making the move to untie the knot. He didn't want it. I'm sure he went through a lot of pain and discomfort. And what was it? August 9th, March 2023. Looks like it was October. So just under a year, looks like 9-10 months later, he's dating a hottie, another model. Let me just look up real quick because I got a tab over here. Let me see how old Arena Shank is. That'll be an interesting search. How old is what's her name? A bigger puzzle. IRINASHAYK. How old is Arena Shank? She's 38. So this is his new girlfriend. I think he's still with her. I've got another tab up somewhere else. So she's 42. The new Gisele's 42 at this time, 43. He replaces her with a slightly younger, probably just as hot, if not hotter version. So amid speculation, Gisele isn't thrilled by the news Tom Brady is dating. I mean, you're pissed off that he moved on. She makes it clear that there's nothing but good vibes by posting prayer hands on Instagram. Oh, fuck me. It's always the same fucking shit. Prayer hands on social media. Fuck me. It's always the same shit with women, right? She makes it clear there's nothing good but posting prayer hands on Instagram photos from a trip they took with their kids. So they took a trip together with the kids. Well, that's good for the kids, at least. It's a pretty girl. He looks like a happy father. Tom Brady, what an incredible trip to the most amazing continent, Africa. It was another special reminder, blah, blah, blah. Gisele, prayer hands. August 2022. Gisele looks back on tons of special moments throughout the years with Tom's son, John Edward Jack Thomas, whom the retired NFL pro shares with an ex, Bridget Moynihan. Was this him, I guess? Happy birthday, Jack. Okay, so this is his first son. That's nice to see, at least. She's embraced his child from a prior relationship. She has a big smile on her face. She looks happy. It looks like she's looking after the child. You don't see that very often. It's very rare that you see a woman want to adopt, embrace, love a child that's not hers. That's actually a bit of a beacon of light in this whole train wreck. What does it say over here? Happy birthday, Jack. I can't believe you turned 16. I remember you were just a little peanut, and now you're towering over me. I'm so lucky to have you in my life, blah, blah, blah. Oh, that's nice of her to say that. The sweet carousel features a throwback pic of the supermodel holding John as a toddler with yet another snap of him alongside Gisele and Tom's other two children, Vivian 10 and Ben 13, and a more recent image of them all together. Happy birthday, Jack. I just can't. Okay, so that's the quote. September 18th, 2023, as the epochs move on. Gisele opens up, touching on what a rough year she'd had in general, without mentioning her divorce specifically. It's been very tough on the family. It's been a lot in you fucking decided to untie the knot. He didn't want to do it. It's been a lot in every area of my life, she explains. I feel like whenever it rains, it pours. I fucking hate people that play the victim in the chaos that they create. Everybody does it. It's not just women. A lot of people like to play the victim in the chaos that they create. I feel like whenever it rains, it pours. With all the different twists and turns life takes, all we can do is the best that we can, given what happens in our surroundings. I wonder if they have a publicist that writes this shit for them. While speaking about her dedication to working out and wellness, she notes, I think if I didn't have all the different tools that I had to support me during these times, the tools being Joaquim's dick, of course, it would have been very hard. And I think we all can relate to that. And because I think we have gone through our roller coasters in life, March 2024. Gisele breaks down crying in a trailer for an upcoming interview with Robin Roberts about speaking in her divorce, saying, sorry, guys, I didn't know. Can I have a little moment? Again, your choice. He's moved on. He gets a new supermodel. You're feeling, it sounds like a little bit of resentment about your decision. March 2024, Gisele is straight up asked if she cheated on Tom. Why would she admit to cheating on him? Anyway, she straight up asked in this interview, and she says, that's a lie. She also notes, I really don't want to make my life a tabloid. I don't want to open myself up to all of that. I'm going to tell you something that I've mentioned before, and is strongly supported by evidence during the Ladies Night podcast series. Women have a very strong desire to manage their reputation. They will tell themselves stories and say things like, I didn't cheat on him. When in fact, look, bottom line is, if you met each other at 26 and 29 and you're together, if there's any intimacy, flirting, kissing, banging, whatever, anything during that time while you're together, it's cheating. Like from the time that you meet onwards, I don't care if you have a break or, we were on a break. If you're on a break, a good woman will sit there, reflect, marinate, think, journal, write a note, whatever, and then come back to you. I apologize. It was stupid of me to do that. I want us, right? That's what a good woman will do. Unfortunately, that doesn't happen very often. Most women aren't like that. What most women will do in a scenario like that is they'll just hop on another D. I hate to say it. Could be an ex, could be, the kid's jujitsu instructor. But that's how those things go down. So I don't buy it. I don't buy that's a lie. And we'll get to the timeline with Joaquim in a little bit. I really don't want to make my life a tabloid, but I'm open myself after all that. This is something that happens to a lot of women who get blamed when they have courage to leave unhealthy relationships. Oh my God, it's an unhealthy relationship now. And they're labeled as being unfaithful. Well, you are unfaithful if you leave him. You make commitments in sickness and health, and richer and poorer till death do us part. That is what marriage vows entail. And if you untie the knot, that is officially unfaithful. They have to deal with their communities. They have to deal with their family. And of course, blah, blah, blah. May 2024, for some reason, Tom signs up to be roasted on a 2.5-hour live Netflix special. And a bunch of comedians poke fun at his ship with a supermodel. June 17th, a source tells Gisele has blossomed. Has blossomed since her split from Tom. And she is secure and happy and so busy with her life that she doesn't have time to dwell on negatives out there. Truly love this for her. And that's the end of that. Let me get the super chat real quick over here. Rich, if a man divorces a wife with no kids, is he mandatorily required to pay her spousal support, assuming she makes less but is also working? It depends on where they live, like where family law governs that breakup, and how long they've been married to. Like, for example, in California, I believe if you're married for more than 10 years, you're obligated to pay alimony into perpetuity. Like, that's why a lot of Hollywood actors, they never really remarry, or they never live with another guy again because it triggers the end of the alimony. And how are you going to replace a fucking multimillionaire that's worth $500 million with a jiu-jitsu instructor? So it really depends on where you live to answer that question. All right, I got to move on because I got to bounce in like 15 minutes. I'm not going to read the breaks for silence on why she and him broke up, because it's really just here's my truth, which is just a translation to unbelieving my lies. They finalized divorce. Okay, 2020. So here's the important part. So they finalized in October 2022. So the next timeline I want to get to is Gisele started dating her kid's jiu-jitsu instructor summer of 2023. Very close proximity to the October 2022 divorce, the finalization. This instructor was involved with the kids and her for a long time prior to 2022. There's a very strong probability that she was either doing something or planning to do something at that time. A complete timeline of Gisele's dating her jiu-jitsu instructor. So another timeline over here. This is a video of her in 2022. So earlier the year when they were still married. This is a video that she posted on Instagram of her sparring with Joaquim. A little bit of a showpiece. Here I am locking him up. Here's some striking maneuvers. Me flipping his arm and flipping him over, sort of thing. She's involved in jiu-jitsu. She's rolling around on the ground with another man. Like in a lot of these positions, it's not intimacy in the conventional sense, where intercourse happens or anything like that, but it's certainly intimate when you roll. And I don't think men and women, like, it's ideal for men and women to roll, especially if you're in a committed relationship. It seems like it has a strong potential to lead to other things. If Tom had good frame and was unplugged, which he wasn't, if he allowed his wife to spar with a man, he probably thought, oh, what harm could come out of it? He knows I'm married. Gisele's married at the time. what bad could come of this? But you get yourself in a situation with another man like this while your husband's playing a sport in football and you're rolling around and locking each other up, and a lot of your body is like intertwined, like you intertwine each other like a pretzel in a, like a sport like this. And she doesn't need to learn this. You know what I mean? I mean, if she was adamant about like, I want to learn jujitsu, then a boundary that I would have set is like, okay, that's, it's fine. Get yourself a female instructor. Same sort of thing. Like if she wants to get a personal trainer, I've talked to so many personal trainers. They all say the same thing. They bang almost all of their clients, any of the attractive clients anyway. The vast majority of male personal trainers will bang their clients, even if they're married, even if they're engaged, even if they're involved. It just happens. It's a bad look. It's a bad move. It's a boundary that you have to set as a man in the relationship to prevent the potential for chaos or her stepping out or her catching feelings for somebody else. And he should have seen, he didn't, but he should have seen the potential for this to turn into something romantic. Allowing her to train with a male instructor. He's a good looking guy. I mean, you can't really see his face here. I don't really know what he looks like. Let's go back to this one. This is him up over here, Joaquin. He's a reasonably good looking guy. Not as tall as Tom. They're about the same height. Tom, I mean, I wouldn't say he towered over her, but when they were standing together side by side, her head was on his shoulder. So again, women like taller guys. So it's unusual for her, to go eye to eye. Divorce. Let's see if there's anything in here I should pick up on. It's more blah, blah, blah. Okay, so here's the pregnant part. In October of this year, so last month, this is why it was brought to my attention. People were like, Rich, you got to cover this, man. She's pregnant now. What do you think happened? Did she cheat on him? In October, a source confirmed the couple was expecting. Gisele and Joaquin are happy for this new chapter in life. So she's pregnant at the time she makes the announcement. Usually don't announce a pregnancy until 3 to 5 months after conception. Just to make sure that everything's good, it's sticking, because like the potential for miscarriage is usually early on. That there's no developmental issues. She's 44 at this time, by the way. Like she is at the end of her reproductive options in life, but she's knocked up by her jiu-jitsu instructor at this time. And why wouldn't she be? Like even if the instructor is making 100, 200 grand a year, it's peanuts compared to the pile of money that she's acquired through the divorce. Vast majority of the wealthiest women in the world, if you go to the list of billionaires, any women that are on that list acquired their wealth either through inheritance, through their father, or through divorce. The vast majority of them. There's a small percentage, if I'm not mistaken, that acquired it through business, investing, real estate, but the vast majority comes that way. So in October, the other month, they announced that they're expecting. So they got knocked up in the summer. Looking forward to a peaceful and loving environment for the whole family. Source tell, how exciting. I wonder what Tom Brady thinks about that. Oh, he's just posting lyrics to Landslide on Instagram story. We'll leave him be then. That's a disparaging statement. Guys, you're always going to be the butt of the jokes. That's just the way that it goes. So we covered that. We've got the Instagram. Let's close that. She announced her pregnancy on Monday, the 28th of October last month. Tom Brady's new girlfriend is Arena. So he's with this Arena girl now, 38 years old, Sports Illustrated swimsuit model. He met her at a wedding, looks like. She's a Victoria's Secret model. Yeah. Okay. Whatever. So that's his new gal. And this is his new gal over here. This is Tom Brady's girl. I mean, good looking for 38. Strong for sure. Strong. This is Russian fashion model. I mean, good for him. He's been through the ringer. He got, I feel bad for the guy. The pain that he probably endured. You're world class at your craft, at your athletic career. You get a bunch of rings. You make hundreds of millions of dollars, endorsements, celebrities. You land a huge contract with Fox Sports to be a commentator. This is life, guys. Up and down and up and down and up and down. And even the best of us, even a man like Tom Brady couldn't make it work. Are there things he could have done? Sure. He could have denied her training with a male Brazilian jiu-jitsu instructor. He should have kept stronger boundaries, if I can put it that way. Boundaries are really, really important in a relationship, in a long-term relationship, especially if you're married. Like if you're going to commit to a chick and you're going to, put your life and your wealth and, your kids' names on the line sort of thing, you definitely have to have a degree of frame that is for the protection of that love, of that union, not because you want to control her or you want to limit her, but women just don't make the best decisions. I mean, we saw it with this election. We saw so many women marching, complaining on social media. Donald Trump wants to control my body. He wants to, steal my right to unlimited abortions and all this sort of stuff. And that wasn't Trump's campaign at all. They just blew it out of proportion and made up this entire vortex of lies and bullshit. But that was the common theme, the common sound bites that we heard over and over again, from women. It's like, I don't want him to control me. I want autonomy. It's like, how about just don't be promiscuous? How about, be mindful, about stuff like that. But that's just the way that it is, right? Guys, fuck. There's your breakdown. You wanted a breakdown? Almost 90 minutes. It's probably one of the longer breakdowns I've ever done. If you guys want more stuff, breakdowns like this, sorry I didn't get a chance to take a look at all the comments, but I got to wrap up and leave in a few minutes. But if you guys want more breakdowns, I'm happy to go and do all the research and read the articles and the timelines and the epochs and all that sort of stuff and give you a little bit of an opinion from an unplugged perspective and anecdotal evidence and my own experiences and the guys that I've talked to. I'm more than happy to do that. If you find value out of it, I mean, if you guys like this, if you want to see more content like this, comment below. Good for the algorithms. Tell me what's up. There's lots more good stuff to come. Great day today. Congratulations to Donald Trump and the American people for, doing the right thing. And hopefully we'll see things fixed. But this cast is really about understanding the reality of relationships and, the nature of them and marriages and how women will and can and do have the opportunity to create chaos in a life, in a family. I don't know that I would have been any better at preventing this from happening than Tom. The only thing that stood out to me is I wouldn't have permitted her to train with a male, certainly roll around in physical contact with another man. Good things will not come out of that. Let's just put it that way. No good will come out of her rolling around on a mat with another man. For combat sports or whatever, it's just, you got a girlfriend, you got a wife, and she announces, she's going to get a personal trainer. She's going to get, she wants to get into boxing or jujitsu. Support her, encourage her, but it's got to be a female trainer. It's got to be an establishment that gets it. And you would be wise to keep an eye on what's going on, but it's tough, right? It's tough. There you go. We'll wrap it up on that note. Got to bounce. Got lots more coming for you guys in the future. You know where to find me if you want to recommend anything as far as, future content or topics for me to hit on. I'm always looking for something to talk about and enlighten you guys. And again, the whole point of this podcast is to sort of unplug you from life's comforting lies. I've talked about the quadrants, top half. So if I just draw basically a big plus sign in front of you in the camera, top half is unplugged, bottom half is plugged in. Left-hand side, my left-hand side anyway, is unplugged. Right-hand side, left-hand side is alpha. Right-hand side is beta. I don't know that he's an unplugged alpha. He's certainly an alpha for sure. Absolutely, without question. But I think it's the mindset. It's the unplugging. It's the seeing the code in the matrix. It's understanding it. And he'll be fine. Tom Brady will be absolutely fine. Like every single guy that I know that's gone through divorce and lost half their shit and had the heartbreak and, sees her take the kids and she's now hanging out with a Brazilian jiu-jitsu instructor, and you knew full well, like that video from 2022, they were still married, and you knew full well, what she was doing. It's always the same story. Oh, you don't have to worry about that guy. He's just a friend. It's always the guy that she says that you don't have to worry about that you have to worry about, right? Like that's always what it boils down to, right? Have an awesome day, guys. Peace out. All right, guys. If you enjoyed that podcast, make sure you visit my website at richcooper.ca to learn more about my courses, my book, The Unplugged Alpha, community, or booking me for private coaching. Also, if you are a Canadian with $15,000 or more of credit card debt and what you are doing right now isn't paying off the balances, then visit totaldebtfreedom.ca and hit get a free quote to see if you qualify to settle your credit card debt for less than you owe today over the next 48 months. Make sure you check out the top pinned comment on YouTube for all the links mentioned during the show. Peace.